You gotta say it, Sean. Come on now.
Now, make sure you get out there and blast.
Get out there and blast.
Blue Dog Radio. Get out there and blast. Or whatever. I don't care.
Hey, blasters, and welcome to Blue Dog Blasting's radio podcast. We got another episode for you today. Today we have a special treat for you. Besides myself and Kevin, the mobile blaster.
Remember. Thank you for that.
We are joined today with Chris Keenan, who is the Vice President of MES Nationwide Blast and Paint. Welcome, Chris. What's going on?
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Not a problem, man. Thanks for accepting the invite and joining us on this gorgeous day. I see you and me are sitting outside hanging out. Kevin's
the work from home life of the day, I guess.
Yeah, that's right, man. That's right. So we want to start with you, before we start getting into MES as a company as a whole. Let's start out with Chris Keenan, the man, the myth, the legend. What kind of got you started in the industry of sandblasting and rentals and sales and all that fun stuff?
Well, so back in about 2008, I went and joined, fortunate enough to join up with my father, who was running a big blast and paint company, IMIA. And I started there as a planner and kind of, arguably worked my way up. And then about 2011, a big opportunity came up for, kind of opening an equipment business. And that opportunity was really about 2 years of being in the planning side and also in purchasing, realizing that the thing that this industry was missing was kind of a nationwide store that you could have the same pricing, on one end of the coast as the other, and have that one phone call to make things happen. So that's kind of, what drove us to start MES. And 2011, and then, we started really taking it, I don't want to say seriously, but really started putting a lot more power behind it in 2015. And here we are several years later, and about to be 10 years in September. So
yeah, congratulations and happy anniversary.
Yeah,
just realized that as we were talking. I was just doing the math in my head. Oh God, it's 10 years.
It's a guy thing. We don't do anniversaries and stuff.
well, yeah. So I know you. I think we met on LinkedIn, and that's typically where I find out everybody's job history and kind of figure out where they came from. And it looks like you started out in Auburn University, and you came into this business. You were the operations manager. How long have you been in the actual role you're in now, the VP?
Well, operations manager was just, really just a title. I was one of the founders. There was 5 of us that started the company, and then it ended up being like 7 when we needed investors. We needed to grow. We needed to do different things, and then it worked its way back down. So I've been with it since the beginning, and my partner Frank actually changed my title in like 2018. Just a little dumb history, but he just kind of came in and said, "You're going to change your title to vice president." And I was like, "Nah, I'm good." Never really, And then he did that for a couple of days, and then finally he was like, "You will change your title right now," and basically like made me change it on my email and everything else. I still ran out the ops manager, business cards and all that stuff, but the vice president thing's nice. I guess it carries weight with some folks. I just don't really think of it that way, but it's one of the owners, but at the same time, I'm just part of a team and fortunate to have a lot of quality people that work with me. And that's kind of my mentality, with, not for. So,
Yeah, Sean and I were wondering if you were part owner.
Yes, I'm for sure part owner, and like I said, team. I work for them basically. So it's just
yeah. So MES, obviously an acronym.
all right.
A little bit about company history. I guess we kind of touched on it, but go a little bit more.
Yeah. So MES stands for Marine Equipment Supply, and we started the company with the name Marine Equipment Supply because my dad's company was heavy into the marine industry. That's where our contacts were. And then by about 2015, it was more than just our relationship growing the business. We needed outside, help, outside reps, more than we already had. And at that point it was, well, how can we diversify? We had just kind of gone through sequestration with the government, and not in 15, but earlier, and really just drove home the idea of diversification. How can we get into different markets, different pieces of equipment that still keep us who we are, and what we're good at, but allow us to really diversify. And then it became, when we're calling on blast and paint contractors and the chemical plants, or the wastewater tanks, or the bridges. We're like, hey, I'm Chris from Marine Equipment Supply. I'm like, yeah, I don't I'm doing bridges. See you later. Click. It's like,
I'm in Nebraska. I don't have a marine.
Right? So it's just like that quickly was like, how do we fix this? And we'd always kind of used MES and just the logo, like MES, and then finally it was, we're MES. And then I made the website MES Rentals, because it was Marine Equipment Supply, and that just got terribly long to type out or write out or give on a business card. And
Yep.
And then people started saying, hey, you're with MES Rentals. And every time it's like, no, but that's close enough. And then now we everything's MES, MES.us. Nice plug, segue. But that's our website, and we just go by MES. I mean,
Yeah,
I believe the name is still Marine Equipment Supply, but
we'll definitely have all your information listed below description. And Kev usually does an awesome little scroller. He's all high tech these days, but anybody that needs to get in contact with you, we'll make sure that they get the information. But the two people that are listening to this podcast,
you and me.
So what is MES?
So in short, I mean, we're a nationwide source for rental equipment for the sand, blast, and paint industry, and quality supplies and technical know-how. And that's really what we try to be to each and every customer. We want to support them, East Coast, West Coast, rent them equipment, sell them equipment, help them size their jobs for equipment, even if they don't go with us, because they have their own, or it's just that's kind of the business aspect. And then, there's a lot of things within MES that are driven by more than just, business, that help us actually drive our business. So, it just kind of depends on what phone ringing, but I'll just click the pause. It's probably spam anyways. My car warranty's up, I bet. So it just kind of depends on, MES, like which side we want to dive into. But, naturally, I mean, we're just an equipment rental house, and we'll also sell, and we'll do abrasives and supplies and PPE and anything you use on a blast and paint job site. We probably provide it for you.
So what percentage would you say your business is the shipyards, military versus the industrial or manufacturing?
So for the first 3 to 4 years of our business, 100% in the marine sector. Shipyards, Navy work, commercial work, small little mom and pops. Now, over the last 2 to 3 years, we're pretty we're a pretty even split right down the middle. So probably half in the in the marine side, and then the other half in the industrial.
So now you're pretty much nationwide, coast to coast, huh?
Right. So we started kind of hodgepodging it based on where the jobs were. We started in Bremerton, and then we Washington, and then we have a little job in Virginia, and then San Diego, and then maybe something down here in the Gulf. And now we kind of put our feet down and our roots down in those areas, Virginia, San Diego, Bremerton, down here in the Gulf. And we've also created a lot of strategic alliances with places, with people in different areas, everything from Columbus to Houston to Colorado to, Kings Bay, Georgia, to Jacksonville, Florida, to different areas where we can stage equipment, stage supplies, kind of have, delivery points, shipping points, and, and also have created these alliances with, mechanic shops and different folks that are knowledgeable on our equipment. So when we support something that maybe a day's reach from our shop, either by way of plane or by way of car, we don't have to be faced with that. We can literally have somebody to your job site, super quick, super fast. And that's something that's a lot of the pre-planning stuff before jobs start that a lot of people don't do, or in the very least, a lot of people don't see. But I will not send a piece of equipment to a job if I can't support it. I make sure we have a relationship and somebody that's within 1 hour of that job site. And that's just something that I've always done, coming from the contracting world to now, and understand how important downtime is. And we certainly don't try to figure it out on the fly. That's just never good. So, but yeah, nationwide,
Yeah.
we say it and we actually mean it.
I think I saw it was like deliver. You have some spots on the map that are deliver only, and then.
And the concept behind that is literally just where a big portion of our staging yard is. There's something in Houston and Columbus. We have equipment kind of strategically placed. So when somebody needs it, they're not getting their butt kicked by freight costs or by time. Sometimes one's more important than the other, just depending. So, and there's other yards too that we just don't have listed because I might literally have a vacuum sitting in Deer Park, but not really advertising that it's sitting there. It just came off of a job and we made a deal and it's ready to go, but sitting. So
I would assume nationwide, I mean, you have to have a pretty sizable fleet of equipment for rental.
I say size doesn't matter.
That's bull crap.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know the exact number right off the top of my head, but I mean we definitely have over 200 pieces of large rental equipment. So yeah, there's certain folks that say, hey, we have over 1,000 pieces of equipment, and or whatever those numbers may be, and they're including pieces of blast hose they have for rent, or different ancillary items. But I'm literally talking things with an electric or diesel motor. And
Yeah, big ones.
Yeah,
Big expensive ones.
when you say equipment, you actually mean equipment. So
Yeah. So some of the parts, or I'm sorry, some of the equipment that you guys do rent out, industrial vacuums, industrial sized dust collectors with diesel motors that are portable, sandblasting pots, anywhere from something small, that you would find on a regular old backyard type of job, all the way up to, I think I saw a 28-ton blast pot.
Right. Yeah, so that's specifically the 28-ton pots are 8 to 10 outlets. It's 560 cubic feet of mineral abrasive. And boy, those things right above them, you've got a 760 cubic foot hopper, so you can have over 1,200 cubic feet of mineral abrasive right at your fingertips, right on your job, and you can just rock and roll with it. So we definitely got that. We have your smaller pots, your 3.5 cubic foot, pot, and it's just as far as the diesel vacuums and the diesel dust collectors, it's definitely part of our fleet, as well as electric. And they range from, on the dust collector side, from about 2,000 to about 60,000. Now we've done some jobs where they're bigger, but that's really like a made to order, like not going in the rental fleet, type thing, because they just so few and far between, super niche, super custom. And then, on your vacuums, you've got everything from 100 horsepower to 325, electric and diesel kind of mixed around. And we do some AC units, 10 to 30 ton AC units, don't really push them all that much. DH units, 5,000 to 15,000 CFM. But those ACs and DHs are only about 10%.
So with all that equipment, you guys are also in sales though too, right?
Right. So surprisingly, or not surprisingly, a lot of people, they'll rent, something, and then all of a sudden that job went from 1 month to 6 months, and now they want to buy the unit. And
yeah, I saw you had like a rent to own type of program.
We can. We offer rent to own options, provided it's discussed up front. I'm always a straight shooter, but when you rent a piece of equipment for 6 months and then you call at the end of the 6 months, and there has to be something that's, I guess mutually beneficial, and we'll just apply everything I paid to the purchase price. Well, that just takes away opportunity cost, and there's a lot of things that kind of puts a damper on. So But as long as it's discussed up front or within reason, within, the first 30 days, like, let's figure it out. We're all business, business folks, and we need to make money, but we also need to take care of the customers, and those customers need to make sure the vendors support them. So, I mean, it's, as long as it's fair, we're definitely a pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered, bunch over here, where we're not all that greedy. We just want to help the customer and, also help MES. But as long as it makes sense, we'll certainly do a rent to own. We sell equipment, new, used. I'm always in the market to buy equipment. I feel like if I put around, I don't know if they're where you're at, but around here, there's a lot of yellow signs that say like, we buy houses, for like wholesalers. Like, I've literally joked around and said, I should just put this by shipyards. It says, we buy equipment, and just have people, just send stuff in, because, we do a really good job of getting old stuff and refurbishing it, and, getting that out to people instead of $100,000 diesel vacuum. Well, this one's 40 G's and it's refurbished, so we do a really good job of matching up kind of what we see in the market, where people are wanting to buy used, and finding those deals. We deal with a lot of contractors. Some of them just don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with used equipment. They'd rather just buy something new, get the depreciation, and get a little bang, for their buck on this unit. And we'll certainly entertain that.
I would imagine a lot of those guys, at least where I've been up in the Norfolk area, that if you're willing to tear it down and rig it out, they'll let you just take it. I don't know how often that happens for you, but
not very often. But I hope it happens more now that I know that maybe it exists right up there. No, I haven't been fortunate enough for those, but I definitely understand that the concept that some people just want to get rid of what they see as junk, and what we see as with a little money and a little elbow grease, and our mechanics are really, really, really talented. So what they can turn around from junk to nice is pretty astounding. And you also have you have to balance the big $200-300 million per year companies with the guy that's got 10 guys that just doesn't want to rent a vacuum, and he'd rather buy. And it can be older, and it's fine. They're not that particular. They just want a vacuum that they can buy for 15-20 grand instead of paying $6 or $7 grand a month. And they'll deal with it if it breaks down when it breaks down. So,
yeah.
So you've got whole walks of life that in this industry that we are now fortunate enough to deal with, that we didn't up until 2015 or 16. So our business has morphed, just like you guys, just growing. The more products you see, the more companies that you interact with, and industries, and really just trying to be a well-rounded, company, and not just, we're not a one size fits all, but we can definitely be a pretty good single source solution. And if not, if there's something we can't do, well, I'm sure we know somebody who can, and we work together with them to help you.
That got me kind of thinking on these, I don't know how much you guys do like DOT projects and stuff, but I would imagine you're doing a lot of stuff that's mobile, or where it requires especially material handling. Do you guys have any good partnerships with the guys that can handle that type of rental equipment?
So certainly. It just sort of depends on the region for something like specific like that. But specifically speaking, without having a example, but I mean, down here we've definitely partnered with some of what I call kind of the big box rental stores. The ones that are green or white and blue. You see those guys everywhere. So we definitely have some partnerships with them. They don't really do what we do, and we don't do the general construction type equipment, but we have contact there because we will get asked for that equipment just because we have equipment in general. They get asked for our stuff because they have equipment.
Yeah, so Sean and I beforehand were talking about most of the time with businesses like yours, you can get about 90-95% of all the info you really need about them as far as the equipment, the services, supplies that they offer. But the biggest thing to me is evaluating, number one is the core values, which I know is very important to you, discussions we've had in the past. So I kind of want to dive into that. And then also differentiators. I know that's big with us at Rodeco. Those are the
Right.
two areas I think we really stand out in the why of Rodeco. Can you talk about a little bit about that with the why with MES?
Yeah, I've been around a lot of different businesses that, they drive only, they drive their business only by, profits. And, they drive their business only by what makes, the CEOs, tick, I guess, if you will, or, just money, whatever. And it was important to me that when and we've been working on these values for a long time, but it was very important to me that, we hire based on values, we fire, based on values. And as we're growing as a company and adding new people, and I can't be, everywhere to have an opinion on something, and I have my fair share, but the people that we hire, there's always kind of a benchmark that they can refer back to if need be. But most of the time, it's just the values dictate how we do business, and they dictate, how we're going to approach a situation, and even down to our pricing strategies. We have values that align, there. And we definitely have, our core values are loyalty, agility, integrity, service, and dedication. And not to get too cheesy, but it's when you really think about it, we drive the business by this. Like, you can ask anybody that works here, and they've been a part of crafting these core narratives, or sorry, these core values. And that's why I think we have a great culture. Culture is super important, to me. And when I was at my father's company, great culture, just a phenomenal, leader, phenomenal leadership team. Learned a whole lot. And as they got bigger, certain little patches you could kind of see, it didn't really fit with values per se. They were still very good at what they did, but for me, there was always something maybe missing, at the very end of my time, there. But as we crafted, shifted into this company, I wanted to make sure. And I've been working on the values. For like 5 years, like literally, there's little tweaks, and I've never made it public. We've always just kind of kept it, inside. And then finally, we had to do a new catalog, and it was just like, hey, let's get 100%, transparent, and let everybody see it, and
Yeah.
whatever. But when you think about loyalty, when we're loyal to our customers, and we don't just treat one transaction as the entire relationship, like I have to make a killing on this one. When you're loyal to a customer, that increases, your stability as a company, because now you just don't have a transaction, you have, a relationship. And when you're agile, and you can move around and you can shift, even as something as simple as a rule that says 3 days or 3 weeks equal a month in the rental world, it's kind of standard. Even when you can shift that to work with a customer, and just because of their specific, time, or their, job, then that being agile in that aspect, as well as adapting, kind of creates, your avenue for longevity. Basically, if you're not agile, you're toast. For lobster, just for, example, they did what they did very well for a long time, and then they just didn't shift. And other obviously reasons, but that's, thing. And then, integrity, it's when you have integrity, it gives you a responsibility to always do what's right. And even if it's a hard conversation, you can't do it, and or something is happening to the job, you're not there, but this is what's going on, or just whatever it is, it's just always do the right thing and be honest about it. And then service, I say it all the time, I think our service is better than anybody's. And we will get out there Saturday, Sunday, 2 a.m, whenever. Unfortunately, others say that and they don't. And I've been a contractor. I know what it's like to, literally be on night shift, and, have people calling because equipment's down. And then guess what? It goes down at 10 o'clock. Well, now they're done for the whole night. Now their schedules, sliding to the right. Contractor still has to pay them, because they're there. They showed up. and they don't get the job done. And so that's why I think service is really good, and why we pride ourselves on crew 24/7. And then last, I mean, dedication. I mean, we just want to win, but we want to win the right way. And that's not by tearing others down. And I've mentioned others don't really do it, but you know, don't really do X, Y, or Z. But I'm not tearing anybody down. I'm just kind of stating, you know, the framework for why we do what we do. And we're gonna build the biggest building. I'm not trying to tear anybody else's down. It's plenty of work, but we're gonna win, and we're gonna be dedicated to our employees to get there. And that ultimately, you know, drives, you know, people always say, like, you know, when you have happy employees, you know, think about employees first, not the customer. It took me a little bit to understand that, but you know, all these things have been dictated and driven on, you know, lumps and just taking the lashes, you know, and you know, between my legs, you know, numerous times, but it's driven us to who we are now. So it's pretty neat. I mean, I wouldn't run a company any other way, and it's tough. It is tough, but especially when you have to hire and fire based on values and not just a resume.
Yeah.
But it gives you, again, I think it gives you a stronger culture. So,
Only tougher as it grows too. So the bigger your company, bigger chance of, you know, like you were saying, getting those little clicks or.
yeah. So we've got, I think now we're over 30 people, but I've been involved in every single interview process, and it's just part of, I mean, not to say that I can always do that, but that's just how it's been so far. And it's been rewarding, you know, to a large extent, because the culture itself and people, when we were doing the core values, everybody, you know, basically I gave them a list of like 100 values, and I was like, well, what do you guys think? And we sent it out to almost everybody. I shouldn't say that, probably 50 to 60% of the company. And you know, they talked with other people within, everybody, you know, in the company had a say so, which is who, you know, submitted it back, so to speak. But all of them came back. They came back at almost identical across the board. I mean, you'd see some things like dedication, you know, there's dedication, and then like service, like together, or, you know, trustworthiness and integrity, you know, like it's, you know, stuff like that. So they all just intertwined with basically just be a good human, and do a good job, and own up to your mistakes. And
Was that something when you sent out to get those answers, was that more of trying to find out what their perception of the culture was and the core values, or was it more of them saying, this is how we'll be successful or take it to the next level by enforcing these?
I think that it's kind of a mixture. So I've always kind of, I mean, and I had more, but, you know, I narrowed it down, and I never really defined them, if you will, in this regard. But I wanted to, like you said, see what, if this is how I think, do others also think this? That's how I've been managing. Maybe I just haven't shared it with everybody. But are my managers, you know, I have several managers as well. Are they managing how I would if I were in their shoes, and just the overall culture thing? So a lot of it was basically, this is where I think we need to be. What do you guys think we need to be? And then when the answers came back, it wasn't where I think we need to be. It was like, shit, this is where we are. And like, this is awesome. So it's kind of just like a, you know, come to fruition, you know, type, I need to get someplace. And I've been trying to get someplace for so long, not realizing I'm literally already there.
Yeah.
So it was
amazing.
It was pretty cool. It was very, very, very cool. Very, very thankful for our team. 100%.
Shows that you guys, you know, are on the same page. And I've heard so many stories, especially with these big companies, where they go in and they ask all the high level management, what are your core values? Most of them don't know. And the ones that did know, they ask, what does that mean? And they just never defined what those actually mean. Yeah, loyalty. What is that? Loyalty to your teammates, your customer.
Yeah, I mean, I think we built a really, really strong team. And if you actually look at our values that are in our catalog, and they're going to be on our new website, but it's not like if you were to look at like a Netflix value where they're important values, you know, sure. But it's what I mean by that is it's not like it's just two sentences. Like, you know, we value integrity. Integrity is us. Or like something like kind of like, you know, a little punchline.
Yeah.
Like I have those, you know, like loyalty increases our stability. But like within that, it kind of defines it, you know, like basically like we're indebted to our employees and our customers who helped us, you know, get here, and also the ones that will come into contact in the future. Like, so, and there's several sentences within each core value. You know, I personally wrote the values, and I wrote them in a different style that when you read it, it just made sense. A lot of these are little sayings that a lot of us have always had. Like, we look to the big picture. We don't worry about nickel and dimes. You know, like relationships are more important than this one particular job. Do what's right. You know, different things. And if you actually read the values, then it's a lot of those little sayings that we've all used. You know, a lot of our managers and our technicians and even our accountants, you know, that use, and then just piecing them all together, and they all align. Like it's very happenstance, just very, you know, and maybe even not. Maybe it was just, you know.
Well, the one that stood out to me, your one little saying, "You succeed, we succeed." And with my screen print business, that's one of the ones that I use is, if you succeed, we succeed, and if you grow, we grow. And that's the same kind of you know, relationship type of building. I'm not in it for one sale. I'm in it so that you can grow your business and be successful, because if you're successful, you're going to keep coming back to me, and then I'm going to be successful, and we're going to have a partnership.
Yeah, you don't try to make people fail when you you know, rent something to them or you sell something to them. You can't think of you can't just say, I'm going to sell this. It's not a used car lot. Like, you know, I'm going to sell this or rent this and then never see you again. You know, good luck. You know, like, oh, here's an opportunity, whether you're a smaller guy or you're a bigger guy, like here's, you know, or gal, you know, sorry. But you know, you just never know. And when you do what's right, it doesn't matter if they're, again, a $300 million company or they're blasting swimming pools. I mean, if you do what's right, that person, that $300 million company can just end up turning to trash and, you know, get smaller. Meanwhile, that pool company can end up growing so big, and he's just gonna, man, you gave me terms that nobody else would. I'm gonna get everything from you, and it might only be, you know, a $30,000 a year per, you know, or a year customer, but guess what? That's $30,000. So
Sorry you didn't have. Before we close up on the core values, I'm just curious, and this might be a weird area to get into, but what about expectations of customers and vendors if they don't necessarily align with your core values, or if you're seeing that they're doing things that might be out of line? Are you willing to turn the business down, walk away, or refer them to somebody else?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I wouldn't refer them to anybody else. There's a good story about Southwest. I think it's Southwest Airlines. About there's this one customer that like keeps writing and keeps complaining, and eventually they want Southwest to change all this different stuff. And eventually the CEO of Southwest is just like, literally sends this lady a message and says, "Thanks for coming. You know, we valued you, but see you later."
Yeah.
And I think that speaks volumes to kind of, you know, the idea that, you know, this isn't Burger King. Like, the customers aren't always right, but you try to work together, you know, but at the same time, like, I've had certain, you know, we have equipment, it's mechanical, we're trying hard. And, you know, sometimes things happen. You know, you just don't know why, you know, an engine slings a rod. I mean, it is what it is. So when a customer, I'll stand up for my team, bar none, because I know them to be of, you know, good stock. So if somebody wants to question their integrity, that's like, and if their work ethic or anything like that, that's like the fastest way to like no results.
You have a big project and your company's willing to turn away the business because they don't align with those core values. That really shows that they're living the core values versus, hey, these are our core values on the wall, get them on the website type of thing.
Right, for sure. And it's, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just, you know, just be a decent dude and just try to help the customer and do whatever you can. And, you know, if somebody wants you to do something that is just not ethically right, pretty simple for me. Just like, how about no? And it's, you know, that you have we're fortunate that our people, our account executives, sales reps, whatever, others call them, they're not, I mean, I don't want to say they're not opportunistic, because they're very hungry. They want to get out there, but they're not going to put, they're not going to try to win a sale at the risk of compromising, something else. And if they do, then I'll fire them.
The problem took care of itself, Sean.
There you go. Yeah. No, and one of the things
Other
you
people
mentioned,
think, and we just don't.
I mean, I do business just like you do business from the sounds of it. We definitely share core values and how we would like to manage things and everything. And the one thing that, you and I have in common, and one thing that I think more businesses should really stick to and adapt is, your core values and you're transparent with them. And if the customer doesn't like that, there's a whole lot of customers and there's not a whole lot of businesses. They can go somewhere else and find somebody that does what you do. But the way that businesses completely change their paradigm, their theo, whatever you want to call it, just because they placate to the lowest common denominator. If you bitch and moan and cry enough, people give in. And I'm sick of that.
Yeah, that's not really gonna fly, and that's why we put, like, I literally have the values out, and I haven't shared them, up until within the last year, but that's why they're going on the new website. That's why all this stuff, so you can read it and what we're about. And in addition to our core values, I think that it's our biggest value proposition. And then you say, oh, they're just values. Well, go read them. See if those things are just core values. Like, I literally wrote them in paragraph form, short, sweet sentences, so you can literally see what you're getting, and not just, I mean, plenty of people have the equipment we have. I mean, maybe not plenty, but there's enough, in each market that do what we do, that have our equipment, but they don't have the mantra, that we have. They don't have the grit. They don't have the,
That's what separates. I mean, and that brings me back to the original point, or the question was, your core values are your differentiator, because business, there's not tons of secrets.
Again, not trying to bulldoze you. I mean, I don't think that we're better. I mean, we're better at service.
Yeah.
I don't think that we're, just like, we're so much better, than anybody else. Like, everybody's doing their own thing, whatever it is that works for them. Like, go for it. Like, I don't care. Like, like I said, like, if you want to do something ethically or unethically that I don't agree with, like, whatever. Like, I'm not paying your bills. Like, do whatever you want to do. But for us, it's just, I think that our culture is the best one. And I have to say that other people don't have good culture. I haven't been in their culture.
But you only got control over you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I just don't worry about others. I don't really, I focus on, the market, but I don't really, the competitor wins a job, like cool. Like, I expect more out of myself and out of our team, that if we lose something, that affects me, it affects me enough, but at the same time, we have a lot of wins just to chalk up, and we're just going to keep getting them, and we're going to keep losing, and we're going to keep, again, we're going to win, we're going to lose, we're going to learn, and we're just going to keep on postcarding it up and making these fun little sayings, but people are going to live by them, and it's fun, and it's going to work, and it already has. So we're here.
I get my daily motivation from your LinkedIn posts every morning. I just go search them out, and I'm ready to hit the street for the day.
Sometimes I'm just like, what about today? But luckily, I mean, they're done like 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time.
The main area I want to focus on is the abrasive. Can you tell us a little about what you offer?
Silica sand only.
Sand.
It's not even sand at this point. It is like pure scoliosis.
Scoliosis. You're silly.
Comes out in an aerosol can for that. So we were very fortunate over the last 3 years to really get ingrained into this and into the abrasive business. And for a large part, large part of the time, almost 70% of the company, I was like, nah, don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. Well, part of being agile, realize, hey, we got to do it. So,
Well, not to mention you have right there on the website, you guys are the one-stop shop.
exactly. So it's hard to do that without abrasive. So
Yep.
what we started with, was let's do what everybody's doing, just whole flag, right? And very quickly it was, and the mantra wasn't do what everybody's doing. It was just, we have to compete in this market, to get these same looks, because we were losing jobs, not because of price or because of value, but because people were literally saying, well, it's just a little easier to go to X because they also have abrasive.
Well, and depending on the job, there's mill profiles that are spec'd into those jobs that, if a crushed glass will only give you a 5 mil profile or something, but you need to get down to 2, so you have to use a different abrasive like a coal slag or something. I mean, if you don't have that product, you're offering them half of what they need. You're giving them the machine, but you're not giving them the product to use it.
Right. And what we realized strategically was that the abrasive allows you to reach out and touch that customer pretty dang often. And you're not just calling to try to sell something. You're calling to help them, like, hey, you might be a little low on X. And if you're not, let's think about when you might be, so we can plan for you. Let us be an asset for you. Let's not just be reactionary. Let's be, a little proactive. So that quickly dovetailed from, coal slag to, well, now we actually need garnet. We need to offer, some garnet. And then we've always, sold steel shot or steel grit, because of our ARS units or steel grit units. That was actually our first 6 pieces of equipment we bought brand new were 6 ARS units, because nobody had grit. So that's one hell of a way to start a company, but we certainly did. And so we sold steel grit, and then we ventured in, we'll sell glass, I've sold walnut shells, and we can sell pretty much anything. And we just recently hopped on with, with the new abrasive, 10X, and that's making a lot of waves, a lot of cool stuff there. But yeah, we really want to be able to offer, a customer a turnkey solution, a single source. Everybody says one-stop shop, and I think we really can't do that. And we kind of changed the language up a little bit and said a single source, solution, just because everybody's using one-stop shop, kind of all the time. So just same thing, play on words, semantics, really, but that's sort of what we wanted to do. And my team convinced me to go to abrasives, and I couldn't have been more wrong about and late to the party than we were. But it's part of it. You adapt and you move on, and you can't, we're hitting it hard now. We're moving a lot of abrasives and different types, and really all over, everything, again, coal slag, your hard codes, your abrasive inks, US minerals, that stuff, to your nickel slags, to obviously 10X and, garnet and steel grit, ALOX, we've got a lot of that stuff. And there's a new product that's out, but I can't share what it is yet, but we are trying to work on exclusivity in 2 regions, but it's out. We've sold a couple of truckloads. We've done testing, and it's a solid product.
Much of your business on the shipyards all over the country. So I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on what you've seen out there in the shipyards as far as trending. I know I've heard a lot in the past that started off with the slags, the coal slag, nickel slag. I heard is pretty big in the areas. Then it went to garnet. Now I'm hearing the next big thing out there is going to be this 10X. What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, so we're actively. I'll take a step back. So yeah, there's several shipyards that, for better or for worse, depending on what side of the coin you're on, there you can't use a black beauty in. And regardless of my beliefs as to their reasonings, founded or unfounded, that's relevant to the discussion. But a shipyard will literally say, hey, you can't use a coal slag. And There's two major ones in Virginia right now that say you can't. You can use glass, you can use garnet, you can even use a nickel slag, which okay, and you can use steel grit and A-locks. So it's very interesting dynamic. That is happening in especially in the West Coast for sure. They're really getting away from, and they're trying to even get away from copper slags. But they are anything with beryllium, they're just kind of setting their target on it. And even though OSHA rules have came out and just kind of said, hey, it's cool, they're trying to be, a step ahead, and right or wrong, that's their choice, and it is what it is. So I don't think it can hurt, the industry, to be, I guess to adapt. And if this stuff is potentially hurting blasters and painters, even if it's in 20 years from now, get the hell out, if it is. Not saying it is, not saying it isn't. It's not my AOR. It's not my thing. I sell those things, and we do very well. But as far as the trends, going into, into the garnet, aspect, there's a lot of garnet, that they're pushing in, in shipyards in replace of this. Yep. But what we're pushing is the 10X product, and we've seen it walk the dog on garnet in the shipyards, and on in
we
demo.
Can't use that pun on this radio podcast.
I love it. And so that's one of the things that we're trying to do is push this 10X stuff. We're close. It's soon to be mil spec, so we're working on that. It's not mil spec at the moment. That's not from lack of effort, lack of trying. It's just it's a process. It takes a process, and the government and the QPLs and all that stuff, it's just slow. It just takes time. So that should be done. We've got departure from spec to use on large jobs. It's gonna outperform garnet, and then basically you have a product that outperforms garnet to the extent of about 20 to 30%, depending on your millage that you're blasting and your pressure. And so you have that benefit. You use less material than a garnet, and you have no free iron in it, which delays the rust bloom. So that's awesome, even better. And you don't have any harmful chemicals, and it's all made in the USA. So it's a lot of win-wins. And the price point is very, it's not exact garnet, but it's very similar to garnet. And all of our experiences, even out in, the Pac Northwest with a specific shipyard that has shifted entirely to 10X, your cost per square foot is even cheaper than pole slags. So, and it's not, again, it's not on this isn't an infomercial. I mean, it's not on every single project, but on the right projects, yeah, it might be, a little more than 3 times the cost of a cold slag, but it's still going to cost you less to use it. Yep. And just, it's very, very cool. Very, I don't know if cutting edge is the right word, because it's not like, technology. I guess it is technology, how it's made. But it's super cool. I'm super excited about it. We've been on with them almost since inception. It feels like.
It's one of those products you have to try to believe. I've tried talking to some of the guys.
You're a distributor for. Why the hell am I giving the infomercial?
Hey, you're the guest here today. Yeah. But I was going to say, some of these guys have been in the industry so long. They're the type you have to show.
Wicked smart dudes, man. They're smart. Very smart.
They've used something for so long, so you're going to have to convince them. And I got to be honest, I was.
Oh wait, sorry, I thought you were talking about the 10X guys. I was like, oh, they're really smart. And they're like, yeah, you got to.
Oh, I was talking. Yeah,
completely missed that one.
I missed that one. Sorry. No, but when they came down, they kind of made me a believer. Their first visit to Sanford, when they came out and did some testing, and that was the first time a vendor or a media manufacturer actually talked about optimization. Very refreshing. Right. And I think something that should go on with all these other abrasives, but I definitely saw some big advantages. You mentioned it, the holding off the rust. I didn't know exactly what was causing that, and I think got an education on that. The speed and the only way I can explain it is I've said this before for a video review, is it just feels like a cleaner blast. If you've ever had your hands on a blast nozzle, you're going back and have to cover the same areas you had blasted, a couple seconds earlier. you can really tell the difference.
It doesn't really create a lot of holidays, and it's when you look at the substrate, like you've seen it. I've used one of your things and shared it on LinkedIn. When you look at a 10x substrate that's been blasted, to whatever SP level, it doesn't matter as long as they're consistent. 10x, coal slag, copper slag, garnet, whatever it is, that 10x piece, man, it looks like it's brand new. I mean, at least in my experience is what I've seen. I mean, and obviously used.
We'll show right here somewhere. Either one side of me will show this picture.
All right.
But I think, Sean, we had talked about this. The green diamond is something that we want to get a little more educated on. I don't see it at all on the road. I don't call it.
It's out of Oregon, so we move it a lot on the West Coast.
Yeah.
It's just, we're at a disadvantage here unless we go intermodal and get it from Oregon, over here, to the coast, where I'm at, or even, to the East Coast. But when you ship it, from Oregon down here, I mean, you're going to be at a price point that's closer to garnet, and it's just, it's a good product, and it's really great product for the not the environment as like, climate change environment, but the kind of the environment around abrasives and, what is looked down upon or whatever, I don't know if environment's the right word, but whatever the current perception is of abrasives, especially on the West Coast, it has a very favorable opinion. And it's awesome. It's a good product.
It's got its take on the internet, because I get phone calls, and we're over here on the East Coast, and people call up Blue Dog Blasting and ask if we sell that, and that's kind of what provoked this whole conversation. I mean, we were like, what is green diamond? So we kind of did a little bit of homework and looking into and stuff. But yeah, like you said, if you got to ship it from one side of the country to the other, shipping's a killer, man.
Yeah.
Well, but in fairness, though, I know a contractor down here, and it's not through us. It's through one of their other distributors. But they have a big project coming up, and they're gonna use about 4,000 tons of this stuff, and it's down here in the Gulf. So they're cool with bringing it down intermodal, throwing it in pneumatic trucks, and loading it in, and they're paying, close to the price for garnet, but they really like the material, and the garnet, it's just too dusty, and other stuff. So, I mean, there's a lot of, if you can get past, the price per pound compared to a cold slag and look at, the other thing, necessarily that much faster, than a cold slag. I mean, it's a nickel slag. I mean, it's maybe, it might not be material, but if you're, if you can get past just the price and look at the benefits of it, I mean, it's cleaner, it'll definitely be copper slag.
Mhm.
I've seen it, firsthand. So you've got to see what's ultimately important, to you. And do you want to go all, get rid of cold slags? Well, green diamond is a great option. And if you don't, then we can also sell you that stuff.
I was going to say, and if, if things are a little bit too dusty for them, I know where they can get a dust collector.
There you go.
There you go. So, but 10X, back to that, since we're talking about dust collection and blasting, and, when you don't have to use a dust collector, unlike an amphiblast unit, that 10X stuff will shine too. I mean, it's, you've used it in your greener blast,
Yep.
And we know Bob from Boston,
Big shout out to Bob.
Bob Nash.
Love some Bob. You got to make sure you tag him on here,
Oh yeah.
Greener blast units are awesome, but he's a big proponent of 10X too in his stuff. So it's and you use even less material there. So it's just, there's a lot of exciting stuff that's out there, and it's I don't know. I'm just happy to be part of it.
I wanted to ask, while we're talking about abrasives, I think I asked this yet, but what percentage are you really seeing out there as far as the wet versus the dry blasting? I know.
Oh, it's the infamous Keven question. Wet versus
always-
dry.
I'm always
But
curious about this.
I think it's relative to the industry. At a certain stage of a job, when you're on a Navy job,
Mhm.
people don't really use wet blasters.
Yeah.
Unless you're at the very beginning stages and you're still, you're trying to get to an SV6, you're still going to come back to an SV10, but you cannot use a rust inhibitor on a Navy ship. So you literally you just can't. So that presents some challenges depending on what type of work that they're doing. Bob, did a really good job in getting, some on a carrier in Newport News. I think it was in Washington, it was a big article about it and it was great. And they did the job, for sure. They performed well. But as far as like the overall percentage of wet blast versus dry blast, I mean, I think it's more specialty, type stuff, people that, not just like pools. I don't mean that, but I mean, people that have, smaller jobs, or maybe they don't want to go through all the containment stuff. I mean, they do make, 8-ton amphiblast, units. We have them, we sold them, they're neat, but you can use wet or dry. So I don't know how they're really using, those.
And that's actually kind of surprising. I would have thought, because you have such a marine coastline type of clientele, that you would have said you do a lot of wet.
Well, think about it this way. How do you contain the water when it's on the water? And how do you prevent stuff from running into, without putting berms and doing all sorts of other stuff? So it's just, there's certainly some, some challenges as it relates to full on blasting in the marine world with, these units. And right now too, I mean, unless you have an 8-man, setup, or a 4-man setup that's, amphiblast ready, Bob's stuff's great. But they're 2 outlet. I think he came out with a 2 outlet now, which is super cool. But you can load up, they're 6.5 to 12 or 13 cubic feet. I mean, I'm, not
7.6.
Yeah, so there you go. So yeah, I think amphiblast is, like 6.5, but that stuff's great. But if you've got 4 guys that you need to blast a tank and, in 2 weeks, you're right now, what we're seeing is that it just makes sense to go ahead and get a dry pot and knock it out. But we have a lot of people. We do our demos with wet blaster machines, like even when we're doing dry blast, like they're so easy to use. They're so, whether it's a greener blast or an amphiblast pin on our demo, but they're so easy to use, both of them. Those are really the only 2 that we kind of stand behind and have in our fleets and sell. But they're neat. I mean, again, I like them, a whole lot. Just kind of at the same time, it's counterintuitive because I have vacuums and I don't want wet material, because I have dust collectors and I don't want something that doesn't produce dust. But it's all part of being agile and just offering what we can, what the customer needs. And some people don't even want to entertain a wet blaster because of the mess. They'd rather just keep, or because of they're not being agile. We've always done it this way, mentality. So.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a hard or fast rule. I don't necessarily subscribe to the mindset that the industry's shifting to, wet blast. Only because
I see down here, and obviously it's a much different industry with the mobile guys that are going out and doing cars and stuff, but they, for the most part, it seems like they go one way, wet or dry, and they go all in.
Right.
I mean, I've seen guys that go with wet blasters, and that's all they'll do. That's the only job they'll take on. They're doing pretty well out there. So
yeah, no, they're great units. They've both Axiom and Bob Greener Blast. They've both came up with a hell of a unit, and they're both completely different in terms of how they work and how you can use them in application. So, but at the same time, they're pretty simple. So they've both done a really good job. I just don't know that, again, what we're seeing at, I mean, we don't really see a huge, I mean, a lot of people are trying them and using them, but as far as like a shift, like I'm getting out of dry, going wet, and we're dealing with a lot of large scale jobs that it's just, how they blast it is only a small part of it. They still have to contain it one way or the other, whether they're doing water or dry, they still have to do X, Y, and Z. So I don't know. I haven't seen a big mass exodus from dry blast, but I've seen a lot of smaller, necessarily, like not your brands, your Brock or any. They still have the units, but not a full mantra shift from dry to wet. But sure, there's a lot of people that we don't touch that are, like you said, of the firm belief that we're out of dry for good. Like I don't need a dust collector, and they're right. And then the ones that say I need 28 tons plus a hopper because I got to knock out this, they're also right. So it's just, I don't think it's a one size fits all for these. You can't say slurry blaster anymore, but for these wet blasters. So
yeah, and I would be mad at myself if I didn't say it, but I always make the distinction between is it the amphiblast you were talking about, that and the greener blast. I see those as two completely different machines, because one's an actual real slurry wet blaster, the other one's a wet blasting, but it's water induction. Is that right, Sean? Water induction for the
So it puts water into the blast stream.
Yes.
At the metering valve. And Bob's is for sure traditional. It's definitely a much better take on slurry blasting, but you mix it in, and it's that main driver I think is an abrasive savings and a dust. So you got like abrasive savings and dust, like less dust. I think they both, in my opinion, they both reduce the dust roughly the same amount. But I think, and I could be completely wrong, but that's what I think, my experience. But I think you have to trade off between, do you want less abrasive and less dust, or do you want to sometimes be able to do water and sometimes do dry and less dust, like irregardless of the abrasive savings. Like you're introducing water, but the Schmidt pot is, in my opinion, geared more to knock down the dust without a focus as much as Bob on the abrasive savings.
No, thank you again, Chris Keenan. Chris Keenan, Vice President, MES. Pleasure having you on. Great great information. Anybody that needs to contact Chris, whether it's buying some equipment for sandblasting, also guys, reclaims, and also dust collection and everything else. We've got all the information listed down below. Feel free to check him out. Check him out personally over on LinkedIn. We'll have a bunch of good contact information for Chris. And again, thank you, man. It's been a pleasure having you. We definitely appreciate
Thanks, Chris,
coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Whenever you want to do it again, I'm game.
Awesome, buddy.
Definitely. Hey, you gonna say it, Sean? Come on now.
Now, make sure you get out there and blast.
Get out there and blast.
Blue Dog Radio. Get out there and blast. Or whatever. I don't care.